What I'd like to do is just give you a summary of what we see at Side 10.5 Boots has happened over the last 12 months from a business development perspective and what lessons we've learned over that time. If we can cast our minds back to 12 months ago, I think we were all blindsided. I think that the combination of uncertainty, unfamiliarity of working from home, and fear gripped us. And what that meant was that business development was relegated. What we soon realized, probably, I don't know, 8 weeks or so in, was that actually our clients had issues, that it simply wasn't possible to relegate BD. We had to adapt our approach. And what we saw initially was a response in 3 areas. We saw a proliferation of content. We saw people start to take LinkedIn a little bit more seriously. And the third thing, shock horror, was we rediscovered the telephone. That's for those of us that weren't making a Zoom video conference calls. That was great. That was kind of the knee-jerk reaction. What's happened subsequently is we've become a little bit more sophisticated through a combination, I would say, of 2 things. Firstly, through what I would call Zoomitis. There's been that many Zoom calls that it's now much harder to get people's attention and get them to dial in. So we've had to be more sophisticated and look at alternatives. And secondly, I think there's a realization now, and Derek and Richard have both touched on this within their own thoughts, is that the toothpaste is out the tube. It's not going back. Things will never be the same as they were before. And actually, from a BD perspective, some of the things we're doing now, I would argue, are smarter, they're more cost effective, and they're what we should be doing irrespective of a vaccine and going back to the office or whatever. So what I'd like to do is just focus in on 5 key areas where I think we've learned some lessons over the last year. First one, client development. What we've seen is that it simply isn't enough to send out generic emails saying that, we care about you, what I call COVID washing. What we've seen is that actually those firms that have succeeded in the last 12 months have actually been a little bit more savvy. They've been more, the communications have been personal, and they've had a more structured approach to client development. Second area is content. In the early days, we were seeing lots of stuff, mostly pretty dull, anodyne stuff about, as I say, COVID washing. But what we've seen in more recent months is actually, rather than a reliance simply on the written word, we're seeing increasingly the use of audio through podcasts. We're seeing more video content, infographics. We're seeing personalized video messages, and there may even be somebody on this call who got a personal video, a Christmas message from me because I was too mean to buy any Christmas cards. But that's certainly an area of change. The third area is presentations. Now, up until last March, my normal working week was 4 days out of 5. I was on the road giving talks in person, and I'll be the first one to admit that it's been quite a steep learning curve for me delivering presentations virtually, because the thing that I found out is you simply can't do what you did in person and deliver it in the same way online. You need to do something differently. Now, we don't have time now to get into the detail of that, but it does require a difference in approach. And then there's networking, isn't there? I mean, who misses the canapes? Who misses the rank wine? I know I don't. And actually, rather than it be harder to get contact with people, I would argue it's actually easier now. The geographical barriers are simply not there because we can use Zoom or one of the other video conference platforms. And actually, we're starting now to see that people as human beings rather than as name badges. And my experience has been we're having better conversations with people, getting to know people better. And I think that's a good thing. And then fifthly, search engine optimization. There's no getting away from the fact that people's buying habits have changed. Online is of increasing importance. And the nature of SEO is that it is dynamic. So it isn't going to be enough to pay lip service to SEO. It requires ongoing management. So what does that mean going forwards? What does the future look like? Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I've got a few thoughts, which I'll share with you in about 45 seconds. What are those thoughts? I think we're going to see more client contact. I think we're going to see more informality. I think we're going to see greater use of video, greater use of podcasts. I think we're going to see more collaboration. The pandemic has taught us that the interdependencies that exist. And I think there's a lot more scope to have more collaborative relationships with business partners, and that's a good thing. And it's more cost effective too. And finally, I think there is no getting away from the fact, and I agree with what Derek's been saying, that technology is something we all have to, we shouldn't be frightened of. We need to raise the bar. We all need to become more adept, myself included. As confident as I am on the stage, I'm not as confident when it comes to technology. Even I've learned over the last year, and it isn't something to be scared of.